Hi, everybody. I am Ari Engel, the Director of Creative Community for Peace. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who don't know, Creative Community for Peace is a nonprofit entertainment industry organization comprised of prominent members of the entertainment community who have come together to promote the arts as a bridge to peace. We are a nonprofit organization and rely on donations to do our work and to even bring you these panel sessions. So please consider making a donation. To learn more about our organization and donate, please visit ccfpeace.com. That is ccfpeace.com, or you can visit creativecommunityforpeace.com. We are truly living in unprecedented times, facing the greatest pandemic the world has seen in over 100 years. In addition to witnessing a sustained movement of change, justice, and equality for the Black community in America over systemic racism. Unfortunately, both of this has also led to a rise in anti-Semitism in America and the world, which sometimes seems to thrive during crisis. This is why artists and their voices are more needed now than ever, as they truly have the power to affect lives and affect positive change in the world. This is also what makes today's panel so necessary and important, as we have some of the biggest legends in reggae and world music joining us today. These are artists that have all inspired me personally and whose music I've listened to for decades. It's a true honor to be able to present this panel discussion. For all of those of you who are joining us in Zoom, you can leave questions in the Q&A section, and we'll get to as many of them as possible. Hopefully that'll be towards the end of the panel, but we may not be able to get to them all, but please do leave us some questions. To briefly introduce our guests, first we have Selwyn Brown from Steel Pulse, the biggest reggae band to ever come out of the UK. The band was founded in 1975, and they have had 6 albums nominated for Grammy Awards, including last year's Mass Manipulation. Steel Pulse also won the Best Reggae Album Grammy Award in 1986 for their album Babylon the Bandit. They've also headlined reggae's biggest festivals, including Reggae Sunsplash in America and Sunsplash in Jamaica, and were the first ever reggae band to appear on The Tonight Show. How you doing, Selwyn? Next we have Yossi Fine, who is of Israeli and Caribbean heritage. He's played a number of projects, including the genre-bending Eccentric Sound System, which he founded in 1997. The project mixes authentic African sounds with dub, techno, reggae, and hip-hop. He's recorded and produced music for artists such as Lou Reed, Michelle Njocello, David Bowie, and Naughty by Nature. And he is the producer of Hadag Nachash, one of Israel's most popular bands. Make sure to check out his latest album, Blue Desert, with Ben Elon. How you doing, Yossi? We then have Coore from the legendary Third World. Founded in Jamaica in 1973, they have performed alongside acts such as The Wailers, Stevie Wonder, and the Jackson 5. Third World was instrumental in crossing reggae music over a wider audience with breakthrough songs that became radio hits in America. They have been nominated for 7 Grammy Awards, including their latest album, More Work to Be Done, which was produced by Damian Marley. How you doing, Kat?
Doing good.
Great. Unfortunately, Julian is a little late for us today, but we hope that Julian Marley will be joining us sometime in the middle of the conversation. But our moderator today is CCFP Professional Networking Committee member Michael Goldwasser, who is the president and co-founder of Easy Star Records, which features releases by artists such as Jesse Royal, Protege, and Revolution. Michael is also a record producer, songwriter, and musician who has produced reggae remixes for artists such as Kelly Clarkson and Janelle Monáe. He also just produced a new reggae-tinged album from Jason Mraz, Look for the Good, which comes out this Friday. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Michael.
Thanks a lot, Ari. First of all, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank all the panelists. It means a lot to me, not just as a reggae producer, musician, but as a reggae fan, because Third World and Steel Pulse were 2 of the first artists to get me into reggae, to inspire me with their messages of looking for equal rights and justice, which is still so important today. So thank you guys. And Yossi has been a hero to me for a long time too, and a good friend. I hope Julian will join us. That would be really great, but I understand there's some Wi-Fi issues going down in 9 Mile right now in Jamaica. So hopefully we'll see Julian. But I want to start by asking everyone how they're doing in the time of this coronavirus crisis that we're having. Have you been working on new music? Did you have to cancel any tours? Do you think you'll be touring again soon? So we're going to go one at a time just to make it easy. So Selwyn, let's start with you and address that question, please.
First of all, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm great, Selwyn. Thanks. I just talked to you yesterday, but hey, what's up?
Okay. Well, as you said, we're living in unprecedented times. The last show that still posted was actually the beginning of March. We're in Ghana, in Accra, Ghana, and we performed for the Ghana independence. And at that time, we were just hearing about this new virus. As a matter of fact, when we were going into Ghana, it's like all of the officials at the airport, everybody had masks on, and we had to go through a process and checking the temperature and everything like that to make sure nothing wasn't carried in. So as far as I knew, in Ghana at that time, this virus wasn't there. Since I've left, it's just gone everywhere. And then suddenly, I mean, one of our good friends who was with us at the time, his name is Sam Clayton Jr., who's a prominent engineer and producer from Jamaica. He's also part of the original bobsleigh team. He was with us as our tour manager. And a few weeks after that, he was in Jamaica working on a project, and he passed away from the same virus. You know what I'm saying? And about a couple of weeks after that, David lost a brother as well, David Hines. He lost one of his older brothers, so rest in peace, Barkley. You know what I mean? From the same thing. I myself, touch wood, I've been keeping myself and my family. Give thanks. We're all safe. Just try and stay, try to stay as healthy as I can. You know what I mean? Keep your immune systems up, staying active. Music-wise, I released a couple of singles from myself last month. One called Serious Times, which is a song I actually wrote years ago. But a friend of mine heard and said, "Selwyn, you got to put this out now." And I also did a song called "Thank You to the NHS," which is like a thank you to all the healthcare workers, key workers, and frontline workers and volunteers that have been getting us through this time. As far as still post touring, we've had to cancel a long overdue UK and European tour, which we were supposed to do last month. So obviously that's been cancelled alongside everybody else's tours. It's not sure when we're going to be touring at the moment. We're just listening out, watching all the developments.
All right. Kat, how about you? How's coronavirus been affecting you and Third World and your life, your music, your touring?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I went down to Anguilla on the 13th of March. I went down to participate with my good friend Banky Banks. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Yeah.
Banky.
So I went. Yeah, I know why you laugh. He's quite a character. So I went there to support him on his Moonsplash show because he had two acts that didn't show up, which was Diana King and Ken Booth. For some reason, they both couldn't make it, and I went there to just be a part of an all-star crew, you know. And I arrived back in Jamaica on March the 18th, which is kind of like a D-Day for us in Jamaica here, because after March the 18th, we went into lockdown. So, you know, all the people that returned, we had to, you know, call the Ministry of Health. We had to, you know, make sure that we were quiet for the first week, 2 weeks, and so on. And it's been a stressful time. I've been very, very fortunate to be with my brother and my sister-in-law, which is like very much kind of like a blessing, because I would have hated to got stuck down in St. Martin or somewhere like that, even though I would have made it through, but I would have been there for how long, you know what I'm saying? And right now, yesterday, Jamaica kind of opened up. We had our first flights coming to Montego Bay yesterday, and I actually happened to be there to see them come in. And you know, it's a little bit of a progress, but at the same time, we're still very cautious. You know, clearly there's no touring, there are no shows, nothing like that happening right now. We were supposed to have had a very busy season in Europe. And just like what Selwyn said, because you know both of us were nominated for the Grammy Award, and anytime you get a nomination, you know you get a spike in your dates in Europe, a spike in your dates in America because people
That's
want
right.
to see you. So, you know, we were rolling along nicely, but unfortunately, you know, this thing happened, and I look at it as each day at a time, really, and I really haven't been too inspired to really write any music right now. I have to tell you, but my son certainly is, Shia certainly is, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he comes up with, you know. But I haven't been inspired to do anything for a minute. Except practicing here and there, keeping my hands on my cello warm, keeping my hands on my guitar warm, that kind of thing. And I've been fortunate to be able to do one or two solo gigs here in Jamaica to limited people, which was nice. It was different, and it was fulfilling and spiritually nice for me. But you know, we're just the same everywhere in the world. I'm just like Selwyn, and you know, I'm quite sure the rest of the panelists have a similar story to tell. So that's about it, you know.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Coore is one of the greatest guitarists of in popular music history. I don't want to embarrass Kat, but you know, like I think like if you ask Carlos Santana, who's one of your favorite guitarists, he'd probably say Kat. You know, so if Kat says he's been practicing guitar, we know he's getting even better. You know?
And
that's because we're close friends. We're close friends with Carlos.
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, Kat. So Yossi, what are the vibes for you having, you know, I assume you spent the entire, this lockdown in Israel. So what's been going on for you there, and how has it affected your music and your touring plans?
Well, at first, you know, just as everybody, we started hearing that it happens in China. And as far as it was in China, it was like far away. And it was like you couldn't imagine it coming to your neighborhood, you know. And the next thing, it's like boom, you know, it's everywhere. And I had a tour that started. I had many tours, many small tours in Europe that started in April, and even before that, lots of dates in March, then April, then May, then June, then July, then August. You know, festivals and everything. And within a week and a half, everything got canceled.
Just like that.
Yeah, until, I mean, our October dates are still on, but the rest of the summer is like off, you know. So the next thing, what I heard, and that like they have a boom festival in Portugal. You know, it's a huge festival, and we were supposed to play there, and then they said, well, you know, everybody that bought tickets for the festival, which is about, I think, 70,000 people, should hold on to the tickets, and it will be exactly on the same date next year, all right? Like August 1st or whatever, right? But then the artist got a different email saying that next year the festival is going to only employ only local musicians from Portugal. All right, and I noticed that happened in Holland and some other places. So all of a sudden, I got a call, and I somehow got a new gig, and that's being the musical director of the Red Sea Jazz Festival. So I decided to do the same thing, and just this year concentrate on Israeli musicians because there is a lot of them. And I think that if each community at this point will just support its own community, you know, each state and country, then, you know, that's at least is good, because all the musicians everywhere got hit pretty hard.
Everyone's affected.
Exactly. Yeah. And I heard that in Holland for a while, they only played over the radio just Dutch musicians' music, you know, so they get the royalties and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, I think that you know, right now each should, you know, if he can, you know, like take care of their own community like that, because that's the immediate thing you should go to, you know.
Well, I haven't heard a peep out of the reggae community yet. I was talking to Selwyn about it, and I had actually wanted to mention it to to David and to Damien and to Sean Paul and Shaggy and, you know, all those artists who, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, to push anybody in any direction here, but the musicians that play for all these artists, they're hurting very badly right now.
Yeah.
And I really I admire the government of Holland for doing that, because clearly they see whereby, you know, the musicians are going to need a boost. So they're playing only the Dutch music on the radio now, so that, yeah, the royalties step up on everything, you know, because right now, all the musicians who are hired guns and who, you know, play for bands who tour all around the world and who they make a good living, their money's running out now because they're not touring, they're not doing anything. You know, and they're not in a position of saying, like, you know, like, for instance, myself and Richie, we're the founders of Third World. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, a lot of them are not in a position of being the founders. They're more in a position of being a hired musician who came in to fill in. I mean, we've all had our days, like Steel Pulse lost Grizzly. They've also had changes within their personnel. Third World lost Bonnie Rocks. We've had changes in our personnel. So, you know, we need to, I think the music community needs to think about that. I'm very proud to hear that Holland did that. That's a very interesting thought pattern, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is because even one of the songs I put out last month, the tribute to the NHS, the way I got that done is my niece said, "Uncle, why don't you write a song for the health service?" It's like, wow. But for me to get that song done, I had to phone local musician friends and say, who have got a setup at the house, and say, Dave can put some drums, Russ can put some vocals, Fiona can put some vocals, and Dave run the studio and do his bit, and then come back. That's how I got the song done. And I phoned Jerry Bridgen in New York, dropped some saxophone, another Bridgen Dave dropped some keyboards. That's how I actually got that song done. Yeah. To actually put it out, and Sydney mixed it for me. So keeping everybody involved, you know. But back to what we're saying as far as musicians, yeah, it's been really strange to not even see buskers. Not even buskers can't even get work. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Much less.
Yeah. Well, you know, like, I think maybe we need to organize a whole other panel about how musicians can get together to make some changes. You know, because unfortunately, the whole world loves music, but they're not always willing to then support the people who make the music, whether it's you know, paying for music or just considering us as essential workers in a way. You know, like we provide meaning and happiness to so many people. But when a crisis comes, sometimes we're forgotten. So listen, I want to address a few other things that we plan to talk about. So, you know, the name of the panel is Roots Reggae Israel. I do want to talk about your experiences in Israel. You know, say your impressions of when you've gone there. Talk about the people that you've met, if you've experienced the reggae scene there. If you are, you know, an adherent of Rastafari, what was it like to be in the land of King David and King Solomon, and where Jesus walked, where Haile Selassie came to visit in Jerusalem? So, Kat, maybe you could speak to that.
Sure. Well, I'm a big Israel fan, huge. So, I mean, I really enjoyed my time in Israel. My first experience was Asif Beach. We played in a big festival. Yeah, we played in a big festival there.
That must have been with Gil, right? Gil Rasta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big up, Gil. Big up.
Really cool. And
Gil said to big you up. He told me that before that. He said, big everybody up. Sure. So yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah, man. I love it. And you know, and I really that was a one-off thing. When I went back to Israel the second time, I did more like about 4 shows, you know, 3-4 shows. And I really had a wonderful time. And what struck me was how much Jerusalem looked like what I, you know, imagined it would look like when reading the Bible. You know, standing over at the Garden of Gethsemane and looking across over Jerusalem, it seemed all very possible to me, all those stories. It just seemed, you know, very real. And I was fascinated walking through the streets of Jerusalem. I really was. And I was about to ask you, how are things, you know, there with our brothers and sisters down the road? How are things going there? Because I think that's one bit of negativity that came to me, was that, you know, your guys, brothers and sisters just down the road, and there's issues, you know, and I, I I don't know. I ate some of the nicest food I've ever eaten in my life in Israel. You know, I really enjoyed my time in Israel, and I really pray that, as I say, your brothers and sisters down the road, that you guys, I know the reggae community is very, very much into harmony. So, you know, I'm just hoping and praying, but give thanks, and I'm telling you that we were supposed to be coming to Israel, you know, before this whole thing went down. So we're really looking forward to coming back. And for me, to answer the question, Israel is great.
Wow, give thanks. Selwyn, what about your impressions of Israel?
Well, it's like we went there in just once in 2008. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until you mentioned about this panel that I realized it was that long ago. So we're trying to recollect. But from what I can remember, it was similar to the very first time I set foot on African soil. In other words, it was kind of surreal to go. So I mean, when we went there, aside from the performance, which was great and well received, and a lot of young people actually going to, you know, the old city in Jerusalem, walking through, you know, going to, you know, the Wailing Wall, you know, King David's tomb, and places like that. You know what I mean? That was on a marketplace, and just seeing the buildings, and knowing the whole historical, biblical, scriptural significance of the whole place. And I can remember time when we were walking through, and I literally just stand at a certain place and just meditate for a little while and say, wow, that's Mount Zion, and that's such and such. And then you recounting all these things. And then the funny thing what happened is when we went to the Wailing Wall, and we were there, all the different people coming around, rabbis and people coming out from the synagogue and stuff, and said, who are you people? So that was kind of interesting, because they were looking at us and said, what kind of connection have you got? And we start telling them about, well, you know, King David, you know, King Solomon, Rastafari, and they start saying, okay. You know, so that was interesting as well. That was interesting in itself. You know what I mean? And then as far as the actual show now, I remember that there was a lot of young people there. So that impressed me as well, because it's like, as you know, in reggae music, in roots music in particular, we're always referring to, you know, the line of Solomon, you know, and, you know, going back to King David and how wise Solomon was. And then certain places, as you know, over the centuries, people have their own interpretations of different things. But we always say, well, there's certain places in the world referred to, and when you go to a sacred place like that, it leaves a special thing in your heart. You know what I mean? Yeah. So definitely enjoyed it. Looking forward, God spare my life, that can go back again to visit it, and have some more spare time, so we can visit some of the other sites as well.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm sure a lot of people would love to host you and show you around. So once all this coronavirus stuff is gone and travel is already, you know. So, you know, maybe we'll create the Creative Community for Peace All-Star Band, you know, and then we just, you know, well, the four of us get some other people, make some music, make some peace, you know. So, Yossi, you can speak, I guess, two things. One is, why do you think reggae and world music is so incredibly popular in Israel? You know, like when I'm in Israel, I hear roots reggae on the main radio stations there, you know, and so many people love reggae. So many artists come to Israel who don't really do many shows in US or Europe and can do a show in Israel and have a lot of people interested. And then also I want to know from you what it was like for you coming to the United States as an Israeli, a Caribbean Israeli, and experiencing the reggae scene in the US when you came here.
Okay, I'll start easy from the last question.
Sure.
When I came to, when I grew up, you know, in a lot of styles of music, but when I saw Steel Pulse when I was 13 or 12, it was, they opened up for Bob Marley.
What?
Yeah, the
1978.
bus. The show was in Paris. I went with my mom. You know, we were.
You was there. That was you.
Yeah, I was the youngest one, and
Wow.
and that changed my life. And I started also, you know, like being so much into reggae. And then, but I also played funk and jazz, you know. So when I got to New York, I was 20. And I immediately got with more like the funk and jazz guys. And when I didn't feel the reggae vibe in New York, it was just not, in Israel, the climate is more similar to a Jamaican climate. It's hot.
Right.
It's, you know, it's hot most of the time, and it's the same tempo, you know. And when we got to, I got to New York, I wasn't feeling it. So for many years, I did not tune too much into reggae while I was in New York. Somehow the energy of that place at that time was not, it didn't, dancehall later, yes, it is very New York because it's more urban like that, but reggae.
Tempo.
So when I got back to Israel, again, I started getting back into reggae. It was like, it's something to do with climate and a certain vibe that the people have in the same thing. And I think also, it's very similar history of people that went away from their motherland into the diaspora.
Right.
And you know, and then they carry the same, there is a certain thing in the DNA of everybody, because Israel is in Africa and it's the northeast of Africa, but it is in Africa. And that when Africans draw the map, the whole Middle East is a part of Africa. So Israel is an African, it's an old African nation. And so even though they got to Europe for like 2,000 years, the DNA can recognize the same vibe that Jamaica carries from Africa, because it comes all from the same soil originally and to the diaspora. And this, I don't know what it is, but I know that I'm feeling that. And I know why Israel is, when they hear reggae music, it sounds very familiar to their soul. You know, they identify with it. They can't explain it, but it immediately goes like, oh, I know that, you know, in a different way. It reminds them of the same prayers sometimes, or it hits a good nerve, you know.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
I hear you.
So
definitely a connection.
Yeah, well, speaking of connections, you know, one thing that I often think about with reggae is the connection that it brings to so many different people. And in particular, in Israel, I have a lot of friends in the Ethiopian Israeli community. And they, you know, most of them grew up in Israel. Maybe a few of them were born in Ethiopia and came very young, but it's a strong community now. I think maybe a lot of people, maybe even some people watching this don't realize there's a community of about 150,000 Ethiopian Israelis now in Israel, which is a significant part of the population of a country that's not that huge. And all of my Ethiopian Israeli friends love reggae, and they feel that bond that Yossi was just talking about on an even deeper level, I think.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Everyone, you know, I think many of us know the connection between Ethiopia and Rastafari and reggae, and how it all makes sense. Selwyn, I think I remember that when Steel Pulse was in Israel, you and David, at least, if not maybe the whole band, visited with the Ethiopian community at a community center in Beersheba in the south. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences with the Ethiopian community there?
I think that's how I got to meet Naftali. You know.
Oh, probably,
Naftali.
yeah.
I think and that was kind of that was interesting as well, because before I went to Israel, to meet people from Ethiopia, that was a nice surprise. And then when we sat down with them and they started explaining why they came there, you know, the whole spiritual link as far as, you know, economics and everything else. When you mention now that there's like 150,000 people there, that means that more Ethiopians have been there since we've been there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was interesting. And then when we got talking and reasoning with them, we realized how many similarities we had, even growing up. Our philosophies, as far as, you know, as far as history, as far as the world, as far as culture, as far as the African story, you know what I'm saying? Not just from slavery, but even before and beyond, and ancient African, and talking about the civilization, you know what I mean? So to know that the people that we met there, and some have stayed there and made that their home as well, because, like I said, the connection is different. That kind of warms my heart to know that as well. You know what I mean? Even with all the differences with Palestine and everything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kat, did you get to spend any time with the Ethiopian community when you were there?
Not in a organized way,
Yeah.
but I remember being in the airport and running into a whole posse of them, and boy, a whole thing started right there, you know. Yeah, I mean, all kind of chatting, and bunny rugs flew off. Rugs was at his best, you know. And
Can you imagine?
he was dressed kind of like in a longish coat and thing, and one of the Falashas or Ethiopian brothers thought he was actually from Israel, and Ruggs went chatting, going on as if he was from Israel, saying, yes, I'm from here. And the guy totally bought it, you know. And
Right.
we really, that was a special moment for me. But it's very, very interesting to hear what you said. I mean, I have to tell you that, you know, we know, you know, vibrationally, and then of course there's historically, you know. I mean, that's why I mentioned to you that what struck me about being there, I felt as if all the stuff I had read about seemed so surreal, but when I got there and saw the actual lay of the land, I realized to myself, boy, you know, I throw in a camel or two and you get the picture properly, you know.
Yeah. Well, look, it's one of the great things about music in general, and I'd say reggae specifically, is how it can break down barriers between people, you know, because I believe that we are all, on some level, we're all one people. All humans are the same in so many basic ways, but then society or the system, you know, builds up these walls between us and separates us. But music, from the time of King David, has brought people together. You know, everyone can appreciate music. You know, I'd like to think, and I think reggae has done a great job in bringing people together. You know, just you can see the people of all races and ethnicities.
Right.
You know, that everyone comes to the shows that we do. They all enjoy it, and it helps them feel good in times when they need upliftment. It helps them think about important issues that maybe hadn't occurred to them before. So I want to hear from you guys about examples of your music, maybe specifically breaking down some barriers and uplifting people. So Selwyn, why don't you take that, man?
Okay. What I'd say firstly is that the amount of fans that have come to me over the years, even this year, and when fans come to from all different backgrounds. I mean, I remember one time I was in Virginia. I can't remember. I think it was the Fox Theatre. You know, sometimes you play somewhere where the venue is closer to the hotel. So after the show, we mix and mingle. I was just walking back to the hotel, and I saw a couple standing by a car, and there's two white people, and the guy had on his red. going through in town. And I could see the lady nudging the guy, nudging him like, to talk to him. And cut a long story short, he said, Selwyn, I knew I could talk to you. I said, talk about what? And he said, just to let you know that, your music, reggae music, roots music, conscious music has changed my life. And I see tears in his eyes. And the man said to me, he was raised to hate black people. That's what the man told me. He was raised to hate us. In other words, he was raised as a, but our music, the lyrics, the vibration, not just the applause, but any conscious reggae music, literally changes life. And that's just one story that I heard out of many. You know what I'm saying? And like she said, it literally does break down barriers, because if you go to a reggae show, you see black people, you see white people, you see Asian, young, old, and then over the years now, I'm seeing kids coming to our shows now, and they're telling me that they hear that music playing around their house, you know what I'm saying, and they're coming to our concerts. And obviously, it's a music that you can party to, but the majority of these fans, even though they're partying, they know every single one of the lyrics and they know what the songs mean. Yeah. So this, I mean, I'm always saying to musicians, local musicians, we have to realize what we have. We have to realize the power and the beauty of this thing that we have that's called reggae music. You know what I'm saying? And like I say, it breaks down barriers. And because I heard that even the United Nations now has recognized it as a cultural phenomenon, as a cultural medium for change and peace. They've officially recognized it. It may take a long time, but the fact that it's gone to that stage, I mean, it's like us. When Clinton invited us to play this in inauguration, he could have chosen the Rolling Stones, he could have chosen the Weather. But for some reason, he chose a band that's coming out of the UK. Most of the songs are political and cultural, but they chose us because they know, just like Bob said, when the music hits, you feel no pain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great moment, I think, when, the 1992 inauguration, Clinton, when Steel Pulse performed, I have a feeling there were no reggae bands at the last presidential inauguration. I don't know. So, Yossi, let's hear from you about some examples of you feeling reggae breaking down some barriers and bringing people together.
Wow.
Or you can punt to Kat if you don't have anything.
No, exactly. I mean, when you two guys, Kat and Selwyn, speak, and I'm realizing that I learned so much through the lyrics, actually, about history. It's like both of those bands are like modern day griots, because they tell stories and they tell history. And so for me, a lot of times just traveling throughout the world, not necessarily always doing reggae, but something even the dreadlocks, or
there you go.
When people recognize that, you kind of like attract the same vibe. And one of the first questions, like, do you like reggae music? And you go like, yeah, sure, that's what I'm doing. And the next thing, you're hanging out together, And it's the fact that both of you kind of like reggae music. A lot of times people will call you to their homes, even if they just met you.
Right.
When you're traveling as a musician, a lot of time, but me necessarily not always in the reggae circuit, the fact that there is a reggae vibe there immediately gets me, to meet
and it draws people together.
Exactly. Yeah. From everywhere around the world, from Poland, from Lithuania, from Africa, of course, Morocco. It's always that. And I think it has to do with the hair, maybe with the features, but that's the first thing. So reggae music unites even more than just the music itself, just the idea that you're into reggae can hook you up with people that you never met
those
before.
people together. You're right.
So, Kat, just like with Still Pulse, Third World has had a long career of making music that educates people, you know. And I think musically, because of all the boundaries you broke by incorporating, say, R&B music and soul music into what you were doing, you got a lot more people listening to your lyrics, you know. So I'd love to hear from you about how you've seen reggae break down barriers and bring people together.
Well, I've just listened to the two conversations, and what really came to me is that you know, I was thinking to myself, why 96 Degrees in the Shade is a song that so many people have told me has been an
Exactly.
influence
That's
in their
exactly
life.
what I'm talking about. Exactly.
Yeah, because a lot of people have said to me that, you know, 96 Degrees in the Shade, it historically taught them about Paul Bogle. And not only that, but the song itself has a vibrational level in terms of, you know, whatever. And I thought to myself, why, you know, since Selwyn is here, I think I would mention that being in England and doing 96 Degrees in the Shade album there, Basing Street, and basically hearing about Steel Pulse and say, hey, you know, these guys from Birmingham, they're brilliant and this and that and that and that. And what I'm getting at really is that when I heard Handsworth Revolution, it changed me, because what it did was it made me see what Black people in England were like and what their journey was about. So when you're talking about breaking down barriers and changing people, Handsworth Revolution changed me because it made me see what, you know, British Black kids were going through.
They're going through.
Yeah, not to mention how well the song is done, how brilliant the production is, the playing, the singing. It's out of the top draw. So that would have been the point to pull me in. But then when I looked further into it, and I realized, you know, that Handsworth is a community of West Indians and, you know, and Africans and people of color, and, you know, how vibrant the community it is. And going to Birmingham, you know, sometime later on, I think maybe the following year, when we had Now That We Found Love, and we blew up big in England, and we went everywhere, Birmingham everywhere, and of course, you know, my Pulse brothers, they never leave me out, so all of them were there.
All of you, man. Because,
you know,
because I remember when you first come to Birmingham, man.
It really came home to me, you know, and I said to myself, why? You know, you as a part of Third World, you have been, you know, a catalyst to change people's lives with your lyrics and your music and everything. But I just, you know, it just struck me that Steel Pulse also changed my life, and I'm quite sure that's the same thing with other musicians. You know, I'm pretty sure there was some guitarist who, when he heard Jimi Hendrix, it changed him. So it's not necessarily that, you know, I've never been one to focus too much on my effect on people, although I accept it, and I don't blow my own horn regularly, but I accept it. But I wanted to bring to the panel today just the vibration of what that one song, and then after that, of course, being so close to Pulse, because the two bands are very close, you know. I mean,
That's
I don't
right.
know how you guys in Israel know that, but we're very tight. And that really came home to me. And also, I think that it goes back even to a slightly bigger picture, whereas for me, I think Bob Marley changed me completely as a human being. So I think reggae music is a music of change. I think it's a music of influence. I think it's a music of a high degree of intellectuality in its own way. And you know, and especially towards, you know, people of color. And since we're into this thing about Black Lives Matter, reggae has been singing Black Lives Matter 50 years right now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just coming to the table now. But we've been drumming this drum here a long time, bro.
Yeah, well, Kat, thank you, because that was, we want to get to some questions, but that is a very important issue that I wanted to bring up, and you just gave the perfect segue, which is that how can, I think everyone is very affected by what's going on right now in the United States, and with police brutality and the murder of George Floyd and many other innocent black people, and the Black Lives Matter movement, and how we're seeing things maybe actually changing based on people rising up. And how can music and in general, and reggae specifically, be an agent of this change? Like Kat was saying, how you've been saying Black Lives Matter for since the beginning of reggae, but now what can we do with that as members of the reggae community to help move society forward? Kat, do you want to speak to that, since you brought it up?
Yeah. Well, I think that the statements that we've made many statements already. Burning Spear, do you remember the days of slavery? What da da, whoa, what da da. Burning Spear, I mean, has been a big voice. Bob Marley, obviously, biggest one. Bunny Whale, a big, and the bands, Steel Pulse, Third World, Chalice in its day, Aswad, we as groups have really proved to people that you can be unified and do something. Doesn't have to just be an artist out there projecting his image, what he feels. This is why I feel so strongly about bands, because what we do is we project a unified vibration that all of us in the band have come up with, and we express that to the wider community, which I think is great. Now, as far as changing, as far as being an influence in terms of what's happening now, I think that we, as I said, we've been beating the drum for so long that as long as people listen to the drum, they'll get the message that they need. But this is unprecedented for me. I've never seen it like this, where people, because when this whole thing started, I mean, as bizarre as it might sound, I just kept saying that we have had peaceful protest after peaceful protest after peaceful protest after peaceful protest, and nothing has happened. It just goes on and on and on. Another guy gets shot, somebody else is choked to death. This thing just keeps going on. And the minute that it got physical, everywhere just started to say, "Wow, this is serious." And now all of a sudden, the black voices are saying, "Oh, you gotta be peaceful, you gotta be peaceful, you gotta be peaceful." But if there's no justice, there can be no peace. And as I say, I'm not a pro-violent person. I never have been. But it really came home to me in a big way when I saw what went down. That over and over again, Martin Luther King got shot for protesting peacefully. You know what I'm saying? And he's not the only one. Mrs. Indira Gandhi, over and over through the years, people who are projected a peaceful image and a peaceful way forward are always the ones who, kind of get left behind or thrown under the bus at the end of the day, even though everybody says, yeah, peace, 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 peace. But the 1 minute that it gets physical and people, start to really express themselves, then you find everybody has a tendency to look and say, "Whoa, look at what's happening here. They're burning this down, or they're burning that down." Rodney King, if they didn't burn down Los Angeles, Rodney King thing wouldn't be as big as it was. But you can't use that to
bring
promote.
attention.
You don't want to promote misbehavior. You don't want to do that. But you have some stark facts in front of you that you have to confront. And you have to come up, with a logical way forward whereby people don't get hurt and your message gets across. And I think that we're at a crossroads here. Personally speaking, I'd love to hear what Selwyn has to say, or what you guys have to say about,
Yes. So Selwyn, what's your take on this?
There's a couple of things. Is like, as far as right now and this moment with the demonstrations, what gives me hope, because because I've despaired when I've seen certain things from a longer time, not just now. When you see that people want change and they don't get it. I mean, even right here in England, even with the coronavirus thing, the most people that were passing away, even in the medical industry, were people from ethnic background, but the government did nothing about it. But I wasn't surprised about that because I got the. But as far as this whole movement, what gives me hope is that in the 1960s, even when the civil rights movement was going on, all the marches was concentrated in the US, obviously because it's the US black people that we were in the as well. But compared to what they were going through in the US with segregation and lynchings and Jim Crow and everything else, we had to count their blessings as far as that. But when you look at the protesters now, we got white people protesting alongside us, youths as well. So when I'm looking at these people, I'm saying, wow, some of these people, maybe even a lot of them, are people that maybe even come to our shows and third world shows, and them in Mali shows and other reggae icon shows, and they got the same philosophy where the people are just tired of the lies and stuff from above, you know what I mean? As far as the violence that's going on, I know for a fact that some of these lieutenants, some of these people that starting the violence is not actually the peaceful protesters. It's people with their own agendas coming in because they know that the peaceful protesters, black people will get blamed. But the good thing is, the people are still going out. They're still going. Even my own daughter said she go out there with a placard, and so I'm worried for them. But at the same time, you're prior because they're standing up for the same thing that we've been talking about in our music for years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Get up, stand up.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And when you look back, huh? You know
there's a
what
lot of bandwagonists, there's a lot of
Yeah, that's
bandwagonists who actually, they're not necessarily supporters of anything really, but once they see an occasion where they can, loot a store or create some kind of mayhem, it gives them some kind of, it gives them some kind of jolt,
Right.
makes them feel good. But that's not necessarily the way to go. But the thing about it is that through history, and if you look back at all this stuff that has caused, whatever through the years, it's only when the people get physical that the people look. Look at Rosa Parks when she went onto that bus, right? And she sat down. And this white person came and wanted the seat. If she hadn't physically said, I'm not moving, right? The statement would never have been made. If she had peacefully got up and said, okay, I'm peaceful, I'll have a seat. You know what I mean?
But that one day she decided no.
It doesn't have the same meaning, So, I mean, as I say, it's a very delicate balance, Selwyn and panel. It's a very, very delicate balance because you do not want to destroy people's property and you don't want to hurt anyone. No lives need to be lost. But when you're making the statements out there, as far as I see it, we have had peaceful protests after peaceful protests after peaceful. Look how many over the last 5 years, you guys.
Yeah.
People have been killed in America. Look at the little kid with the toy gun. Look at that.
I know.
Eh?
Yeah,
I mean, really.
Brianna Taylor was in her home. She was a woman in her home.
Exactly. Yeah,
and
watching the TV.
And the cops already had right. And the cops already had the person, and they went there, bad training and everything else, and the woman ended up. I'm like, yo, what's going on? And then when we look back to the 70s, when we started to up, going back to a point before, when we first saw Third World, we actually went to see Bob Marley, and Third World was open for them. So the same way that Third World was influenced by them, we were like, who just got harmonica, cello, percussion, blah blah blah, and then a little later to around, you heard the punk rock music. Well, the whole union between the punk rockers and us, what united us was a kind of a looking at the establishment, looking at the way the establishment is dealing with people, and basically people just got tired because I can't even remember doing an interview, and a person said, "Why did you go into roots?" I said, "Because we wanted to be a voice for the people that haven't got a voice." You know what I'm saying? And then the whole, because we got together with the punk rock movements, that was how the Rock Against Racism movement was formed. And now I see the whole cycle happening again, but on a different level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, listen, everyone. I mean, this is a topic that we could talk about for a very long time, and we will be, even if we're not on this panel. You know, unfortunately. But you know, we're probably going to run a little over. I hope all the people watching and listening can spend a few more minutes with us, because we do want to get to some questions, because there's so many people have been watching and enjoying what the panelists are saying, and I want to get to some of these questions now. But before I do that, I just want to say I think it's amazing that you know, Selwyn could be in England, Kat's in UK, I'm in New York, Yossi is in Israel. People are watching this all over the world, you know, and learning about these important things. So I think it's really great.
J.A., my brother. Cats in Jamaica, not the UK. J.A.
So this is a question from one of the viewers that they sent in. What do you think about how reggae music has changed from roots to dancehall, and you know, the dancehall sound, but now that we're seeing a resurgence of roots, you know, and what Selwyn was talking about, like why he got into making roots music, you know, with artists like Protege, who I've worked with, Jesse Royal, Chronix, and Damian Marley, who of course, you know, produced Third World's latest album, and all of us know. So Selwyn, since you brought it up, can you speak to this change in reggae, you know?
Okay. What I say is that, as you said, when you look at like 1970s, for instance, now to me the majority of music that was coming out of Jamaica, in particularly, was conscious reggae music, talking about the culture, you know, and us embracing Rastafari culture as kids, you know what I'm saying? Addressing social issues, political issues that were affecting us all. And Bob was in the Third World, Burning Spear, Abyssinians, and the list just goes on. Even people like Dennis Brown, Gregory Isaac, everybody had, even the Lovers Rock artists, if the Lovers Rock artists put out an album, yeah, had at least 2 tracks that was dealing in consciousness. Now you find after about past now, before bypass two-way, and the DJ phenomenon had already started, because I used to follow artists, you know, like you, Rai, you know, Dennis Al Capone, you know, Rai, you know what I mean, and people like this. And then later on now, but the beginning of the 80s, you know, people like Yellow Man, people like that. And that, to me, when dancehall just started, is like when the DJs were talking about certain things, they were still talking about social commentary, and even when they talked about, you know, certain things, they still had a certain humor to it, so everybody could join in. But what happened later on is now is like it gets more graphic. When they start to start talking about certain negative things, but what I see now gives me hope, because, like you said, in the 1990s, from Buju Banton and Sizzla and Garnet Silk, Capleton, and artists like this, and came in, and so you had the dancehall rhythm, but they would go and talking about social consciousness, you know, political consciousness, you know, good living and things like that. So that started the whole movement that we have now, which gives me hope for the music. You know, people like Chronix, they like the Janine, you know, Protege, Mark and Heritage, and the list goes on. So what I've seen is that, and I always say, dancehall is the next evolution of reggae music. And as in all music, you can have certain artists talking positive things and certain artists talking negative things. But the good thing is that the majority of artists are talking about positive issues that affect us all, from the environment, you know what I mean, to social consciousness and what's happening around us as people, racial harmony and things like this, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that gives me hope.
That's great. We have time for one more question from the audience. So Yossi, this is for you. Someone wants to know if you can speak on the reggae scene in Israel and Israeli reggae artists. Anyone? I mean, actually, the question was, does Israel have its own reggae artists? Which we know is yes, you know, many of them. But maybe you could speak on a few that speak to you. And also, someone is asking if there ever could be, say, a reggae and world music festival in the Galilee area, in the Galil, because a lot of people there would really love to hear reggae artists like Third World and
when Third World came to Akhdib, that's in the Galilee. It's in the, you know, the reggae festival was originally in the Galilee, you know, just on the beach of Akhdib. And a lot of times the police gives the promoters such hard time in that region, in the northern part of Israel, that they just went with that south of Israel. So that's my question, my answer to that question. You know, they demand too much security money or whatever. Anyway, lots of reggae bands and also throughout the years, and it started with the Jamaican guy Tony Ray, who migrated to Israel in the very early 70s, and he started doing reggae stuff, Bob Marley, and that was also my first gig. We used to do Steel Pulse and Third World covers. So it was a Jamaican that started it, you know, and all the musicians throughout the years that went through his band became very well-known musicians. Now we're talking about for 25, 30 years of he's training musicians, and later they become known musicians in Israel, and they happen to be in a lot of reggae bands. So reggae is very alive in Israel, and it's funny that you asked, because one of the top popular bands is Hatikva Shesh, which Michael Goldwasser right here produced their first debut album.
Yes, sir.
And he saw something in them that nobody else saw. Just from, I don't know, you heard their music or you saw their video and you said that, you know, yeah, I'll produce them. And nowadays, they are like one of the biggest bands. And so they have really good lyrics as well that educated a lot of people that like them about different internal social things in Israel. It wasn't about, you know, about too much outside things. You know, I think that's what made them very successful, because it was local in a way. The lyrics were local. And I think that what I loved about, you know, also the Steel Pulse, it was local to Caribbeans that were in England, but my family was Caribbeans that lives in France, and it's the same vibe. And you know what Third World lyrics was local to Jamaicans. So we all relate to the same things. So, you know, when you tell your story, other people can relate with you, you know.
Thank you. So listen, I have one more question I want to pose to all three of you, because what brings us together, what brought us to this panel is music, right? So I want to know what you have been listening to lately, if there's a particular album or a song that you've just been enjoying lately or that speaks to you. So Kat can maybe speak to that, please.
Well, there's no one particular genre or one particular artist I've been listening to, but a couple of really cool things I've heard. Tell Me That's Not True with Skip and Damian Marley. I think that's really cool. I think that a couple of the things that Damian produced for Third World are really out the top draw. The whole album is out of the top draw, but I think that there are one and two really good things. And you know, just quickly, I want to touch on the topic about the dancehall thing.
Okay.
I really believe that dancehall is a different genre of music to reggae. Reggae music is a
Okay.
music. Reggae music has some very specific characteristics about it. The way the drum plays, the way the organ just. You understand? Dancehall goes. It has none of those characteristics. So I don't really see reggae as dancehall. I see dancehall as a different genre of music completely. And it's almost as if the dancehall, the ones who were able to start that movement with the tuk, I think they actually took that from Mento, which is another Jamaican form of music.
And Poco.
And yeah, so as Selwyn said, the melting pot is there. And, you know, things melt into other things and morph into other things, to use a word. So I just honestly think that we're very blessed in Jamaica because we have influenced the whole world with a music called reggae, which was we created. And dancehall, even though it's a little more hip-hoppy and a little bit more, you know, some people claim that they are involved in the whole thing and this and that, and some people believe that they are the ones who helped Jamaicans to create dancehall, which is absolute nonsense. But anyway, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that we have two different music styles here. We have dancehall, which has its own characteristics and its charisma, and we have reggae, which definitely has its own characteristics and charisma. What has happened with people like Bojo and people like Garnet Silk and people like, you know, Sean and especially Damien is that they're able to cross both musics. Damien sing a reggae tune for it sound just like his dad, and you know, and then he just go into a DJ thing, which is the DJ culture. So there are artists,
and that's what he grew up with.
Artists can cross over too. He crosses over too. You know, Protege to some degree. But I think that it's two different music styles and it should be looked at that way. And in fact, I really believe that the Grammy Awards should look at dancehall being a category because if you have a music that's so big all around the world and, you know, you have to tuck it in with reggae because it's from Jamaica. I think in doing a disservice to Jamaica, you need to have dancehall needs to have its own category of that we can say, you know, it's not just world music. It's music that influences everything. I mean, I see Corona beer ads that have dancehall in it. I see, you know, movies that have dancehall in it, that stuff. So it's a form of music. It's a genre of music. Once again, created out of the little island of Jamaica, which is incredible because look how small we are and how big we are.
It's true.
You know, and I just I just wanted to add that because I never had a chance to talk on the topic, and it's something that I feel very strongly and very passionately about. That we have reggae music is reggae music. It has a very specific characteristic about it. And dancehall is dancehall. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Interesting.
So, Selwyn, have you been listening to anything of late that you want to talk about?
Funnily enough, you know, I found myself over the last couple of weeks because it started when one of my nephews, he's on Facebook, and he started this thing where he said, I nominate such and such a name to name your 10 favorite albums or 10 of your favorite albums day by day. So I started it up, but I didn't finish it because all these things were happening. But that started me. So it started because of all the other because I named two, which was Blackout Man, and which was the other one? I think it was Talking Book from Stevie Wonder. So because I started that search, it made me start digging back into the music that I was really passionate about in the 70s, even before I got into music. So I found myself going online, looking at all James Brown live in the 60s, looking at Aretha Franklin, looking at Ray Charles, looking at Donny Hathaway, looking at all reggae as well, even and stuff like, you know, old Wailers, you know, Vernon Spear, you know, Keith Stotson. So I found myself going back and looking to old, Sly Stone, the Fresh album and things like that. So I found myself going back and looking at all that music that made me want to get into music from the 70s and stuff. But
Nice.
but I had to confine it to the 70s because there's so much music that I love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yossi, how about you? Have anything you've been listening to lately?
Well, you know, it's funny because since I got to do this, to be the musical director for the jazz festival, and they know it's going to be local, I got more than 100 new music sent to me by musicians. So I find myself all of a sudden, you know, every day I have to put some time to listening to new music. Now, let me tell you something. It's a very humbling experience, and the amount of new talents, that young talents in Israel that, you know, identify right now with all the music in one. It could come, you know, now I'm more in the jazz thing, but it's all, you hear Caribbean and African and reggae and jazz and Middle Eastern all in one, you know, and so this, I'm very hopeful for the new generation. I mean, you know, the young ones that are the same age when Steel Pulse and Third World did their thing in the early 20s.
Right.
And even late teens. They are really good musicians. And I think I look up a lot. I was like, well, Jamaica had in the 70s so much talent came out of Jamaica, and also England, but that generation was so very talented. And I think that energy somehow came to the Middle East and Israel in the last 5 years, where there is a lot of different music that very interesting out of the Middle East. And I look in history, not far, but I go like, wow, each place on the planet got a certain time to shine, you know?
That's right. That's
travels.
Right.
So
And then and then I just wanted to say that Yossi, you're an incredible musician, man. Because I can be honest, I was saying to Mike that the first time I heard of Yossi is when Michael said, "I'm gonna check your music." I was like, "Whoa, you know what I'm saying?" So, big respect for that, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm telling you, you're the kid that saw Prisoner in the Street, and you know, so you know that the reason that I have locks is because of the album cover of Steel Pulse.
Right?
Yeah, Sound System, I think it was, and it's the second album.
Tribute to the Martyrs.
That's one of my favorites.
It looked like this new ancient tribe, you know, and they all had beautiful locks, and I was like, I want to be like that, you know.
Respect, man. Respect.
Yeah.
So Michael, what are you listening to right now?
Oh wow! Well, you know, it's funny because I think a lot of people on the panel, everyone on the panel can relate. When you're working on something, that's what you wind up listening to because you have no choice. So I just I've been producing for Jason Mraz, which is really great to work with a Grammy-winning pop artist, but I'm bringing such strong reggae vibes to him, you know. So and the album comes out on Friday. And it's called Look for the Good. And I've been listening to it a lot because I also just did a full dub version of the entire album. All analog, you know, in the studio, all live. So that was great. So basically, I go to sleep thinking about Jason Mraz music, and I wake up thinking about Jason Mraz music. And while I'm probably dreaming about it too.
It's a great album, man.
Oh, give thanks, man. But the music that I mean, I love all kinds of music. As you know, Thelonious Monk, one of my favorite artists, musicians, pianist. He was asked by a journalist, "What kind of music do you like?" And Monk said, "I like all music." And the journalist said, "Even country music?" and Monk said, "What part of my answer didn't you understand?" Which I thought was brilliant. You know, so I love music, but most recently, my favorite thing to listen to is Kamasi Washington's last album, which was from I think 2008.
Yes,
called Heaven and Earth, and I recommend everyone who is listening to this panel get this album. It's a double album that you have to listen to the whole thing. You have to commit to it, but it's an amazing spiritual experience, you know, it made me remember why I love music so much. Because I have to, when you do music for work, sometimes you get caught up in the work aspect of it. But when you listen to something that helps you transcend, you know.
I love it.
So thank you for asking me, Ari. That was really
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the one thing that kind of brought back a memory for me was Yossi mentioned what was the reggae guy? Tony Ray. And for my 21st birthday, I was actually living in Israel for a year. I had my 21st birthday at Tony Ray's little reggae club in Israel. And he said, "What one song do you want me to play?" And I think there was another band. And I said, Third World's 96 Degrees in the Shade. So it's kind of coming together. And I remember that moment. And I was like, you know, that was amazing. So it was Israel, Tony Ray, and it was Third World. So it was amazing. Anyhow, for anybody that is listening to this, I'll tell you albums that you have to listen is Mass Manipulation by Steel Pulse, More Work to Be Done by Third World, Blue Desert by Yossi Fine, and Eccentric Sound System. So you got to go check those out. Buju Banton, one of my personal favorites, also has an album coming out. So there's lots of music to check out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you on the panel. This was absolutely amazing. This is honestly one of the best panels we've had yet.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you, Michael, for moderating. And once again, Creative Community for Peace, ccfpeace.com, ccfpeace.com, or creativecommunityforpeace.com. We are a nonprofit. We have a lot more of these virtual panel events coming up. So please sign up. Stay tuned. We'll be announcing more soon. Thank you, guys. Take care.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. To everybody, take care and stay safe.
Yes.
Yes. Stay healthy.